Bitcoin, crypto, basically everything. How long until something big really happens? Well, in today's video, I want to discuss that with you, particularly talking about a potential Fed pivot, what's going on in the bond markets, and of course, taking a look into the Bitcoin technicals, looking at some different bottoming indicators, as well as a potential breakdown pattern. My name's Lark. I make videos on investing. If you like that topic, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Leave a thumbs up on this video too if you do like this kind of content. Now let's get into it. Now first I want to talk about US Treasury notes. Yay! What we're seeing right now is a massive rise in yields on US Treasury notes. We're seeing a lot of investor classes getting out of these. China, Japan, Russia, the Federal Reserve, they're not buying these Treasury notes anymore. Now, yield is rising, but at what point do we see regular investors really starting to pile into these kind of things in order to counter the effect of all this lack of interest, right? Do we need to get this up to 7%, 10% before we actually start to see buyers rushing in to pick up US 10-year Treasury notes? We don't know. But we do know there is a lot of chaos right now in these big bond markets, and that is the kind of chaos that is creating a lot of uncertainty in wider markets in general. All of which starts to get around the conversation of when is the Federal Reserve going to do a gosh darn pivot, man? Come on, Fed. Well, this is Jurian Timmer, Director of Global Macro over at Fidelity. He asked, well, when will the Fed back off? The forward curve now suggests a terminal rate of 4.93% by early 2023, followed by 130 basis points of easing over the subsequent 2 years. So basically, this could see a potential Fed pivot in something like January, February, March, right? What remains to be seen if the Fed, of course, is actually going to do that. This is just, forward-looking data. Nobody actually knows for certain what's going to happen. But I can tell you this, when we do get a Fed pivot, I think that's going to provide a lot of bullish narrative for the market. And the Fed will be forced to pivot at some point. I think the coming Northern Hemisphere winter is going to put a lot of pressure on energy prices and all kinds of stuff, right? And we're going to see the Fed being forced to pivot. Pain in the markets may simply get to be too much. And to be clear, the Federal Reserve is intending to cause pain in the markets. That is kind of their job at the moment, and they're doing it very successfully. But a time will come when enough is enough and they have to pivot. Right now, data is suggesting that that's going to be in early 2023. Remains to be seen, of course, when, of course, will actually happen, but that's where data is leading to at the moment. We still have a lot of rate hikes to go before we get there. I also want to share this with you. This is the Bitcoin rate of change. Now, this is, as Titan of Crypto here points out, a momentum oscillator, but previous peaks and tops have been correlated. So basically, if you look here, peaks here, there's of course great times to sell, and then we have these bottoming events where we come down to touch this basically green line, which represents the zone of maximum opportunity for buyers, right? So here we are, bottoming event back here, great time to buy, bottoming event back here, great time to buy. Well, guess what? We are in that similar situation right now. Now, does that mean that the price cannot go lower? Well, of course, the price can always go lower. We can always get a new bottom forming up. Let's keep that very, very clear. However, historically, now is a good time to be stacking sats, to be adding to your overall crypto position, Bitcoin position in particular, right? So a lot of people have been stacking a lot of Bitcoin recently. Also want to share this with you. This is from TechDev52. This is taking a look at the NUPL and times of risk and opportunity, right? So we can see here when the NUPL was getting into its peak areas, that presented high downside risk, meaning the price is likely to come down in that situation. Whereas now we see this uptrend happening where we are getting high upside risk, essentially meaning that we are now in a situation where there's a lot less risk buying Bitcoin. So when you're buying Bitcoin at 69K, that was a higher risk environment to be buying Bitcoin in. Buying Bitcoin now at 19, 20K is a much less risk time to be doing. In fact, historically, a lot of the indicators are showing us, whether it's the one I just talked about, this one, or a dozen other ones, are showing that this is the time to be accumulating. Now, does that mean to go all in? Of course not. You still have to be smart with how you're deploying your capital, but accumulating through this time, as I have been, stacking sats, right? this is a time which historically has turned out very well for buyers a couple years down the line. Now, before we get into the charts, just a reminder, if you don't have an account yet over on Bybit, you need to get yourself one. It's the best place for trading Bitcoin, Ethereum, all of the top coins. 0% fees on all their spot markets, 0% market maker fees on futures contracts. And if you use that link down below in the description to start your account, you'll get up to $4,450 worth of deposit bonuses. So go ahead and check that out if you are a trader. Now, right now, we're all waiting for Bitcoin to do something. Come on, Bitcoin. Come on. Usually, I feel in these situations when we're all sitting around waiting for Bitcoin to do something, when Bitcoin gets all boring, the move tends not to necessarily be the one you want it to be, right? These tend to be times where we have this sort of dwindling of interest, this boredom happening in the markets, when we tend to get downward price action. Now, we can always, of course, buck that trend. You never know. Some bullish news story comes out, everything blasts off. But right now, we're pretty heavily tied to what equities are doing, as we discussed at great length here. And equities are still in a lot of turmoil. There's still a lot of potential for this wrecking ball from the Federal Reserve to drag markets down further. Now, having a look here at the 3-day charts, we still see this descending triangle forming up. Now, our RSI uptrend here is slightly under that trend line at the moment. We'll see, of course, how that closes out in the next day. We may get just enough to fend off the potential downtrend or uptrend break here of that. But previously, as we discussed a few days ago, back in 2018, we had a very similar pattern, which a lot of people are calling that this is a repeat of that right now, where we saw this descending triangle on the 3-day chart. We saw this RSI uptrend that got broken and resulted in a massive price downturn for Bitcoin and the entire, of course, cryptocurrency market. We'll see, of course, that plays out or not. History rhymes, but it does not repeat, right? Always worth keeping in mind. Also here, the linear chart on the weekly, downtrend just basically hanging on right here, trying to lurch across the line, but not in a very convincing manner. A rejection here would not blow my mind at all, so just something worth keeping in mind. But that area of price support around $18,000, $18,500 has been pretty damn strong so far throughout, well, basically ever since late June, right? We haven't really seen the price trade under that level, so if we did see the price break under the level, I think that would be an area where we'd then see a little bit of panic and mayhem potentially starting in the markets, because that key area of price support that had been holding for so long has failed, if that happens, of course. And zooming in here on the daily charts, man, what a boring chart Bitcoin has been recently. This is just like, this is the kind of like watching paint dry experience, right? Watching grass grow experience, essentially, for the markets. Now, look, there's been lots of altcoins that have been still providing nice trading opportunities, nice flipping opportunities, all that kind of stuff. So there's always something going on in the markets. But the lead coin, Bitcoin, the North Star of the entire cryptocurrency market, it's been pretty damn boring recently. Basically, just continuing to be stuck within that range, failing continuously to get and stay over the 50-day exponential moving average. Just keeps lowering down, providing that continual ceiling just above price-wise, right? So until we break out of this range, particularly the 18,500, really all the way up to 20,500, but I think 19,500 has really been a big area for us, as you can see here. But until we break out of this range right here, either to the downside or to the upside, not a whole lot, I think, in terms of strong emotions are going to start coming out in the market. Anyway, just my 2 Satoshis for the day. Let me know what you think about all this down below in the comment section. When do you think the Federal Reserve is going to pull out their magical pivot? Is it going to be in early 2023? Is it going to be sooner? Is it going to be later? Curious to hear your thoughts. Let me know down below. Thanks so much for watching today's video, and peace out till next time.